Hello everyone, welcome to It's Getting Dicey. My name is John, your host, and today I am joined by Andrew.
Hey guys.
Mikey.
How's it going?
And Salvatore.
Buongiorno. That means have a good day.
So, this is the first episode we've done of this podcast. It's going to be a regular feature for our channel and our programs in general. So what is this podcast? Well, we decided that we're really good at talking, or at least we like to hear ourselves and we think we are. So we thought we would give you guys all kinds of info on the side that we can't just jam into our regular videos, like what we're working on with the channel, so we can talk about our projects and the things we have going on. We can give you our opinion, because who doesn't like opinions on the internet? And then, of course, go over anything and everything to do with miniature, war games, board games, and maybe, I don't know, video games. We might even talk about comics. Who knows? But that's the whole point, is we're going to be doing some rambling. So, jumping into the first segment of exactly that, we have some projects we've been working on, as always, and we kind of would like to elaborate on what each of us are working on. So TriStar is a little unconventional for a small-time YouTube channel. A lot of times you have one or maybe two people that work on the videos or come up with the ideas, and they might enlist their friends, but actually we all kind of contribute equally. We take on different segments of work, and we all have our own projects that we kind of spearhead and get everything together for and kind of really take ownership of. So I thought you guys might find that interesting, or we did rather, and we're going to be starting with Andrew. Go ahead and tell us some things that you've been working on for the channel and what you just got going on in general.
Hey guys. Again, my name's Andrew. So I am currently going to be working on our Blood Bowl League. There's still a lot sort of in the making. There have been a lot of life changes on my end. Moved. I've got a 2-year-old, so just lots of craziness, but that is going to be coming very, very soon. We've finally gotten settled into a new house. In general, I'm really looking forward to what we've got going on in terms of bolt action. In case you guys didn't catch it in the last bolt action video I'm in, we are gearing up for K47. I nearly have all of my stuff painted and ready to be put in front of a camera. So right now, those are the two things that I'm really working on. I kind of just out of fun. I am a long time War Machine and Hordes player. Love the game. It's a fantastic game. I'm hoping to kind of help with local scene, kind of regrow that. But that's just like sort of a side thing. That's not anything. Like, if it makes it to the channel, great. If not, no worries.
So we might be seeing War Machine and Hordes. Is that what you're saying?
That is entirely up to the group. It's not anything that I hey, I love this game. I've played besides a couple of year hiatus away from it because the local scene kind of dried up. I absolutely love this game. I put about 4.5 to 5 years into it, and unfortunately, right after Mark III came out, our press ganger moved out of state, and the only guys who were around were the guys who pretty much went to only tournaments and only played tournament lists, and that's a little bit of a problem in the War Machine Hordes community in general. So that's something that I want to kind of try to combat, because I've actually made a ton of friends in this hobby. Friends that I am closer with than a lot of friends that I've made outside of the hobby. These sorts of things are great for anyone of any age, and I'm of the firm believer if the day that we get a bunch of teenagers playing this is the day that we all get kicked out, because they're just going to wreck our faces.
They've got more time to focus on rules.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Listen, these games don't require reflexes, and that's the only thing. And this is a challenge. The only thing those under 24 age group guys have is quicker reflexes. So I do not agree with that assessment, Andrew.
We have the wits, the brawn of the might. So
Yeah.
cool.
Wisdom.
Okay, but see, you say that, but look at the online gaming community and how many little preteens have taken over the online gaming.
Well, we can
but
only
that's
hope
because-
they mature into a
Yes,
blossomed
please.
wargamer.
Please.
Right.
Okay, so we've got maybe some War Machine hordes and those wonderful friends, which I could say the same about you guys, that I've made a lot of good friends in this hobby. Maybe they could pop on over on the channel. We've seen a few new faces.
Yeah, it'd be
And
great.
speaking of that, actually, I'll let that segue over. Salvatore, there's been some new faces around you on Bolt Action. I know you've been working on that, so tell us about that and what else have you been up to?
Okay, well, the few faces you guys have seen probably were Alan and James. So Alan is basically a friend of mine that I've met a couple of years ago when I moved here to the Knoxville area. And he turned out to be actually, I would say, the best host you can imagine if you are a bolt action player, because he is one of the major reseller of Overlord products in the east side of the coast of the United States. So basically, every time I used to go to his house, it was like going to sort of a wonderland for war games. He had everything like models, battle mats. He had like 3 rooms full of models. So it was amazing. And of course, my wife is not happy about it because every time I would go there, it was like a must $20 fee, so to speak. I mean, he wouldn't charge us, of course, but you know, it was. You had to. And thanks to him, I learned a lot in terms of actually how to build up armies, how to, like, for example, something he taught me, I don't know if you guys do it, I started to magnetize each model I have. So I put a little washer underneath, so it gives it weight, and at the same time, I can carry it around on a magnetized base and tray. And I don't know, those little tricks that only the pros, I would say, some pros do. So he is one of the guys that I hope to involve even more into our bolt action projects. Then James was actually my opponent at NashCon 2021, my first bolt action tournament. And thanks to him, actually, I won the 3rd place in that tournament. It turned out that we live actually 20 minutes away from each other, and that's why we met and we played our latest bolt action game. It's not up yet, but it will be next week.
Nice. So is there anything else? I know you and I do a lot of the editing and stuff. Like, are there any surprise projects I don't know about?
Oh, wow. Okay. Concerning bolt action, probably Andrew kind of spoiled something already, but we want to do something for Christmas. So definitely that is a big project in terms of it's going to be a fun one to do. So we're going to be working a little bit into getting into Conflict 47, but still keeping the core bolt action themed around Christmas. That's for sure. I can't say more about the rest, but definitely we are branching out more into more than just battle reports. We're going into reviews of models, how to paint. We've done a little bit of that. Actually, you, John, did. And so we're going to branch more and more into describing how we feel and how we judge certain products. One of the videos I dearly have in my heart, I haven't had the time to work on it yet, is understanding bolt action. Basically, it's not how to play. There are some pretty good how to play, but how to understand the game. Because just because you know how to move around, it doesn't mean that you know how to win. So that is a video that I have in the pipe.
Nice. Okay.
Now, can I interject something on that, John?
Yeah. What's up?
So that's a great idea, and I think Salva and I had discussed this once before. The idea is, after a game that John and I played, Salva said to us, in the kindest way possible, you guys are playing the game within the rules, absolutely. But I don't know in this last game if you guys made the moves that you should have made in order to win, so much as you moved what you thought you should do and it just didn't fit into what we needed to do. So I think that video is very important to get out there because that did change the way I've looked at that game. Was yes, sometimes you're just moving pieces, but are you really thinking about end game? So that's a great idea.
Absolutely. And I think everybody could always use a little bit more of that. Our community is awesome, and there's all kinds of content for those things on the internet, but I don't think one is good enough. I think everybody needs to pitch in, right? It's a team effort.
Yep.
So why not get in on it? So yeah, Salvatore, that's you, right? Anything else we're missing?
Well, okay. These are the things concerning the editing, but the project, I don't know if that was what you're asking me, what I'm working on, actually, aside from the digital world, I'm actually working on something that it's still related to bolt action, but it's more, okay, well, fine, I'm going to say it. Some years ago, my dear friend Alan showed me a project that Woolard had in the pipeline that never saw the dawn of light, at least for now. And basically, it was a World War II skirmish level for World War II. I was fascinated by it, but after years of waiting, I said to myself, why don't I try to put together some ideas and make it myself? And that's what I've been doing in the last probably 4 months. And the project, it's almost to the point of being ready to be play tested. And we don't have a definite name for it, but for now, well, I won't say the name because, again, it's just a temporary name. But the idea is to do a World War II skirmish level that can be easily adapted and expanded into the world of Conflict 47. So starting with the real World War II and then moving probably into more of a weird war with like maybe werewolves and zombies, so forth.
That is absolutely exciting. I can barely contain my excitement for it right now. And maybe since we are kind of getting close to that stage of actually putting it out, we might even do a whole episode of this, or at least a good chunk of one, kind of detailing and fleshing that out a little bit more. So since this is going to be on YouTube, if you guys want to go down in the comments and start the hype train, that would be wonderful. Tell us what ideas you think you have, what you think it might be.
Yeah, I just want to point out that this project is not intended to be anything in terms of promotional or basically what I'm trying to say is this project is really grounded into the bolt action rules that we all love and we like, some more, some less. But anyhow, it's grounded on those rules. Therefore, it's going to be a nonprofit, just a fan love project. And then who knows? We may eventually get the attention of Warlord itself. And maybe, that's what we're hoping, we even maybe see some of our ideas getting into some future supplements.
Awesome.
Yes.
Labor of love. Yeah, we're not cool enough to make money off of stuff. just kidding.
It kind of depends, though, what kind of attention like we get from Warlord. There's we want the good attention from Warlord.
Yes.
Okay.
I just want attention. I don't know about you guys, but
yeah, I'm kind of an attention, seeker myself.
Well, that's a good thing because
if I can say, there's, I believe, no company that is going to be worse than GW when it comes to protecting copyrights.
Ooh,
whoa!
burn.
Bow, 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 bow! I need to edit that
Shots
in.
fired.
Yeah. Jeez.
I mean, I can say that I was a former GW employee, so
yeah,
you were. That's true.
Dropping the mortar salvo.
Salvatore the Mortar Couture.
Yeah.
Always rolling sixes.
Well, speaking of wanting attention, you said it yourself, Mikey, that you crave it, so I'm going to give it to you now, and everyone's going to, you're holding everyone's attention now. What have you been working on?
Well, if anybody's not really familiar, I'm not a very creative genius, I would say. I'm more along the lines. Well, again, I'm very good. I think I told you guys the other day, I'm not a Tesla. I'm more of an Edison, and I don't mean it in a negative connotation, but I can see good ideas that other people have, and I'm not afraid to incorporate them in what I want to do. So a lot of times I'm just a bit of an idea man. I will throw things out for the group, and then they will make it better. But other than that, I'm constantly looking for advice on how to improve the game room. And we need a new light. We get new lights. We need the room to be warmer. The room becomes warmer. Here recently, I've installed a hardline data line so that we can begin streaming. And that's other than just painting like a madman constantly to keep fresh things coming to the table. That's pretty much my contribution to the channel, other than being a very loud and vocal mouthpiece.
Mouthpiece. I mean, you've it kind of coincides with things I'd say I might be a little bit more on the production side of, but me and you have been working really hard to get this black powder stuff up and off
Yes,
the ground.
Yes.
it's not the easiest
100%.
to paint.
No.
I've tried all the mental tricks that I can think of to convince myself that each of these little stands of 10 men are just one model. But man, my brain is not falling for these tricks.
I mean, it's a lot. It really is. I can speak from experience there.
Now
So-
I have found a rhythm, so it's going better. But other than that, yeah.
Right.
Oh.
Right.
Well, I guess the last contribution that I've got is the sometimes I think we are a workaholic group. All of us are, and it's very easy to get sucked into this desire to just. And this is nothing to our viewers. There's a lot of desire amongst this group to constantly push ourselves to get more things out for the game. For you guys that that watch us on a regular basis. I'm a little bit of that a voice of reason. Guys, hey, slow down. Let's just let's all just play a board game this Thursday. Let's play some cards. And I think out of that idea was born the idea to stream because, and I don't mean to be that boisterous mouthpiece. Card games and board games, I think, are more. They're more
Accessible.
Yeah, well, the fun from board games and card games is the people around the table that you're playing
Yeah.
with. And I don't mean this in any negative way towards tabletop games, but we've all been at some type of convention or tournament where the guy across from you is a total tool. And I don't mean that, well, yes, I do. It's a complete slight. We've all played that guy. And if you're playing that guy, as long as you're able to do what you want to do, you can have fun in a tabletop game because it's a one-on-one, But man, card games and board games, your group has to be good. And when your group is good, as well as I do that you go home realizing you had the most fun you'd had in a long time. And I'm proud to say that the group we've got, it's better than any group that any of you, of our listeners have been a part of. And I don't mean that in a negative way. But the amount of fun that we have when we play our card games and board games on our relaxation nights, it's untouched. And that was where the idea of streaming it for you guys came in, because we want to give you guys a look behind the scenes as to how we interact on a regular basis when we're not, editing, and when we're not, trying to be professional. We're never professional, but when we're completely at ease and we're relaxed and we're not trying to put out a super polished product. That was the idea for the streaming, and we're hoping that when we actually get that up and going, you guys will get to see us for just a little bit more of who we are, and that it'll actually won't drive you away, and it'll bring even more of you in.
And just a chance for you guys or viewers to actually come and join us at our game table.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, there's only so much you can cram into a video, right? And we've even had a lot of back and forth about how much you should cram into a video. So it'll be fun to actually get that all out of our system and for the entire internet to laugh at. And I don't mean that in a good way. I mean, they're going to laugh at us because we're going to be monkeys trying to figure out how to get this thing going. But speaking of that, it's interesting. It's almost like you read our agenda here. The next segment. Board games. We actually kind of wanted to talk about board games for a minute. There's a few, we play too many to talk about in one sitting, but there's a few that we've really been playing recently that we've kind of compiled here that we just kind of wanted to go over. So it might be a little bit messy, this segment. There's not a whole lot of order to this. I'm just going to say a game, and I kind of want some thoughts with how you guys feel about it, maybe your favorite moment when you were playing it. And then maybe talk about how we might implement that into a stream. So the first one or two. I kind of put them together, right? Fury of Dracula, and then Letters from Whitechapel.
Yeah, I see those two fitting together because they're the same type of game.
Yeah, and I dearly enjoyed even though I've only played them each once. Really had a lot of fun. If you like a hard puzzle to kind of figure out, Letters from Whitechapel. If you kind of like that same vibe but a little bit more action, Fury of Dracula. Both of them are phenomenal. You can definitely tell that the producers of those games really took time to kind of look at the settings, at the books and the history that inspired them.
Yes. Yes.
And it's just all around really great stuff. If you've got a group of friends that do some serious board gaming, I won't say that these are really like sit down with your kids and play. But if you've got a good group that you hang out with and you guys like some board games that do take a little bit of time, definitely check these two out: Fury of Dracula and Letters from Whitechapel.
Yeah, how do you guys feel about it? Mikey, Salvo, comments, questions, concerns?
Salvo, I'll
Well,
let you go first.
Yeah, no, thank you, Mike. I'm not concerned actually. I would say I played only Fury of Dracula. I think it is a great game. I would say it is a light. I would say to me it is a light board game. Still, it's a step up from probably like Risk or Cards Against Humanity type of games. Nevertheless, it is easy accessible. I like the combat mechanics where you just choose one card and the opponent does the same. I like, well, honestly, I'm from Europe, so I like playing in Europe. So I like to see the old little names, the towns, and moving
The
around.
map is beautiful.
Yes, personally, I read the book, I listened to the audiobook, and I still believe Dracula to be probably the best vampire. And I read some books about vampires. I think to be one of the best books about vampires, and therefore this board game captures absolutely the feeling of dread and the lack of running out of time.
Yes.
The book, absolutely. So definitely to me, as I would say, all thumbs ups for me.
So I guess I will just kind of add to a couple things that were already said. I agree that with Andrew that they're not super light. I mean, you could play them with your children. I have. The thing with Letters from Whitechapel, as Andrew said, more of a puzzle type game. It's a little more abstract in the sense that there's not a lot going on other than trying to figure out like the puzzle of finding Jack. So some of the younger children, especially the ones that are a little more immediate gratification type, they probably won't stay invested in the game. But let's be honest, some of us have kids that are they're not inclined to that kind of thought process. They're focused on other things. But I think you could get kids to enjoy Fury of Dracula because, as Salva said, there's palpable dread. You could cut it with a knife sometimes.
Yes.
I think I had two favorite moments in the game. One was when Andrew was Dracula. We were chasing him. Salva found his trail somewhere down in Eastern Europe, and we cornered him in Prague. And he snuck past us using wolf form. And in my head, I could picture Dracula in a horse carriage, and I'm talking like a horse carriage drawn by 6 big horses, and I could picture those horses sweating and him running towards Transylvania. In my head, I had that imagery of Dracula making just a mad dash back to Transylvania. And then I think the other memory that I had that really stood out was our friend John was actually playing Mina Harker?
Mina Harker, yeah.
And they delivered the final blow to each other to end the game, and it was fitting. It was fitting that the lovers died in a lover's embrace.
I know that was I laughed. That would be my favorite moment from that game for sure. I laughed so hard at that. So yeah.
Actually,
Now,
just add one thing
because I don't think we've actually mentioned this. Letters from Whitechapel is the players. You have one player who is playing Jack the Ripper, and the other players are taking on the roles of the investigators. So I know we've kind of talked a little bit more about Fury of Dracula, but I just wanted to mention that real fast so that people kind of understood what we meant.
Yeah, absolutely. So they could go check it out.
Yeah. So sorry, Salva. I think you were about
Yeah,
to,
no.
to
On a
interject.
side note, since you guys were talking about children, I would say that both games, since they are inspired by some historical somehow events, even if again both are, I would say Whitechapel it's more grounded in history than Dracula, of course, but nevertheless, it would be actually a good reason for younger children to kind of introduce them to some history
Yep.
because they're both based in that kind of world. Now, I do agree. I haven't played Whitechapel, but I've seen the graphics. I gotta say, the Fear Dracula seems more prone to a younger audience, just because the illustrations are more. I guess certain things are more graphic. By any means, I don't mean to say it's for younger children, because some things are pretty, let's say, gore. But there are some elements that I would not feel okay doing it. But nevertheless, it seems more prone to a younger audience than Whitechapel.
Yeah, I'd agree. Whitechapel's definitely not for people with attention deficit disorder, that's for sure.
Nope. You got to focus.
So cool, yeah. Next, Vikings 878. It's a Risk-like game. Very similar, in fact, but tons of differences. I'm not sure everyone in this particular conference right now has played it.
I don't think Salva got to get in on the last game.
No, I have not.
But that's something I definitely think would go well for a stream, and it's just a ton of fun. It's super, what would I say? It's easy to play, but it's still got a level of depth that will keep someone like us that's been doing this for years, entertained.
Hard to master.
Right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Easy to play, hard to master. How do you guys feel about it?
Well, if I can start us off on this one, I agree that it's asymmetrical because, you have the two different parties, and it's, it's a 2 to 4 player game. I guess you could probably get away with 3, but you got to have 2 different people at the very least. And it seems historical in the sense that, the English, the Saxons, if you will, I guess, they've got to fight a certain way against their aggressors, the Vikings, and the Vikings have their own certain way to do it, and they've all got their own strengths and weaknesses. And what makes it fun is if you're able to get behind the mindset of what you're doing and why you're doing it, you can feel a sense of desperation whenever you see another giant Viking army come onto the board. It's pretty intimidating because you're sitting there knowing that you've got farmers to fight for you, and your opponent's throwing down another great army coming in from the north. It's really intense, and it can breed some pretty head scratching moments. I absolutely love the game.
Yeah, and there's, to add to that a little bit, there's some dynamic moments that go on. So the Great Heathen Hosts are all led by actual historical. All these games so far have been rooted in history. The next few aren't, but actual historical Viking leaders like Ivar the Boneless or Bjorn Ironside or what have you, or Harold Bluetooth. No, that's too late. Sorry. That's way too late for that game. But, those sorts of figures. But then you also have, on the other side, the English are pretty, just mustered like feudal forces. But then at the end, King, it's Edward which one is
Alfred.
he?
Alfred the Great.
Alfred. Yeah. Edward's his grandson or something, or
I think so. Yep.
Yeah, I don't know. It gets blurred. We play so many of these games, but anyhow, he comes onto the board late game when the English should be, if the Vikings are good, getting their ass kicked, and then he comes and he's like the savior of England. It's just crazy the stuff that goes on in that game for it to be as simple as it is. Dynamic or gameplay wise, it's so simple. It really is about as simple as Risk, but then you throw in all this stuff and then it gets, I would say, into an in-between level of, it's still simple to play like Risk, but it's not quite as grindy as Axis and Allies or something like that. So yeah.
I would say that it's got a level of complexity and that there is enough going on that, let's say, you've got like a preteen to teenager who is into board games and enjoys these kinds of games. There's enough going on the board with the armies with the battle mechanics, that it can keep them engaged.
Easily.
So that's another one if you're a parent, would recommend. I'm always on the lookout for some of these games because, like I mentioned earlier, I've got a 2-year-old. So, I don't expect him to be into all the same things I am, but hopefully, at the very least, he will enjoy board games, and that's something that he and I can do when he gets older, and any possible sibling or what have you, that sort of thing.
Sorry, I just got an image in my head of Andrew and his 2-year-old playing Vikings against his wife and maybe another family member. And Gabriel moves a piece, and Andrew's like, Gabriel, oh my gosh, dude, why did you do that? Sometimes I don't even know why I try.
And it's gonna be like his face. He's gonna look just like Andrew.
Yeah.
So they're gonna be like carbon copies of each other.
Yeah,
and then
that's
eventually
true.
it's gonna get to the point where they start making the same moves every time.
That is true. It'll be a clone.
No,
Yeah.
as Gabriel has gotten older, he looks more like his mom, and I kind of think
Oh, does he?
she's far more attractive than him.
Well, that's a good
Anyway.
thing, I guess then.
Anyway,
So we got 2 more games on the list here. This is another combo because it's basically the same game, but there are differences. Arkham/Eldritch Horror. We have Arkham Horror, or I should say, Mikey, Andrew, and I had played Arkham Horror before Salvo had had kind of gotten into the group, and then Salvo brought in Eldritch Horror. And it's interesting because those 2 games have so many slight differences that totally change the game, but the premise is still the same, sort of. So, what about those games, guys? Let's go on about those for a minute, because I think those games are very complex, but again, easily digestible for the right audience, I would say.
Well, I would say the one that could probably explain it better is Mikey, because it looks like he's the only one among us that played both of them. Or maybe even intro.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Oh no, so essentially, the thing that I like from Arkham Horror versus Eldritch is there was always, you were kind of going back and forth, and it did a really good job of having sort of this Nexus universe that you'd have to go into to close out portals and whatnot. The only again with that, it got a little complicated because you would be stuck in that sort of Nexus universe for a round or two. And so it's simplistic when you're there, because either something happens or it doesn't happen, if I'm remembering correctly. Mike, you might have to but then with Eldritch, it's a little bit more fast-paced, which is again good for anyone who needs to kind of, when you've got somebody at your table that needs to kind of stay focused on the game. It's more fast-paced, so it's less likely that you're going to look up and they're on their phone.
That is a sin, by the way. Don't do that. Don't be that guy. Sorry.
You should see my D&D group. It gets sad at times. Anyway, so that's my comparison. Gameplay mechanic wise, they're fairly the same if I remember correctly. Setup with Eldritch is much easier.
Yes.
I felt like was much easier versus Arkham Horror. But so again, anything, whenever I do have people over for some board games and stuff, I always try to get it all set up before, because sometimes it takes a lot of setup. One of my favorite board games that I'm absolutely obsessed with, Root,
I know what it
takes
is.
a lot of time to set up, and so anything to get people to the table as quickly as possible once they get to your place is a good thing.
The only thing I'm going to add to that is both of the games, while being very very similar. They also do have enough differences to where you don't feel like you're wasting money if you have both, I guess is the best way to put it, because I think Eldritch Horror took some of the best things out of Arkham Horror and streamlined the things that they didn't like. Like Andrew was saying, when you would jump into the other world to try to close the gate, he's right. You would draw a card and sometimes nothing would happen. And you just basically had a whole turn and you didn't do anything. And I think, it took 2 to 3 rounds to actually go into and out of a gate to close it. Eldritch Horror is a little more simple because you kind of get there and you take your test almost immediately, and you either do or you don't. That being said, both games have their own qualities to add to it, and I can say that I've lost way more of those games than we've won. But I don't remember a time that I absolutely walked away from the table thinking that I had wasted that time. 2 moments that stood out in that was in the time that we played Eldritch Horror, me and Salva and Andrew. Somehow me and Andrew both got stuck in the Bermuda Triangle and wasted most of our game and couldn't get out. Arkham Horror, it always seems to happen, and it's never the same person. Somebody will become a nun and get a Tommy gun, and that imagery is it's unbeatable. The idea that there's a nun, little sister Mary Margaret, walking around with a Thompson, blasting these Cthulhu and these Eldritch Horrors. It's amazing.
Yes.
On a
We
random
need
draw.
Spike Lee to make the movie.
On a random draw.
Yeah, and that it's funny you mentioned the nun with the Tommy gun because we were talking about that. That's one of the things that drew me into that game. That, like you said, the picture of that in my head was like, okay, I want to play this game. And then
I
I
want to
show
make that
up.
happen.
I show up the first time we play this game, or first time I had played it, and you're like, all right, guys, let's start. And then I draw a nun, and then I get the Tommy gun, and I'm just like, yes,
Here we go.
the power of Christ compels you. Anyway, so Andrew, you mentioned Roots. That's actually the final game I kind of put on this little list here of stuff that we've been playing a lot recently. It's a relatively new game, right? Go ahead and tell us a little bit about Roots. I think a lot of people would get some enjoyment out of that.
Oh my gosh, Root is the best way I can describe Root, and this is an abstract description, is you find your favorite cuddly little plush toy, and as you try to sit down and cuddle it, it rips you apart with you and all of your friends. It is a phenomenal asymmetric game of woodland might versus right, or might makes right. And essentially you are playing, and I'm just going to stick to the core set for now, so as to not get into too much details. But you are either taking on the Marquise de la Cats, the Erie Dynasty, the Woodland Alliance, or the Vagabond, and you're all basically trying to, in your own way, that each group has their own dynamic way of basically trying to take over the forest, and whoever manages to take over the forest faster wins. And it's a ton of fun, but it is extremely complex, and has a lot of different interactions. I recently discovered this game, and even more recently discovered that they actually hold world tournaments, or at least national tournaments. Sorry,
Wow.
not world tournaments, but national tournaments for this game. And it's awesome. It is so much fun. If you want to play a board game war game where everyone has a different way of winning, Root should be your go-to. It looks, I love the art style because and that's the thing. It comes off, and it is very charming. It is extremely charming. But when you look at the artwork that the artists did for this game, you wouldn't expect it to be so cutthroat. But oh my gosh, it is. And it just makes it even better. to see this cute little to have the imagery of the Woodland Alliance made up of mice, rabbits, and foxes, and you've got this little mouse charging at a cat for Marquise de la Cat with a knife, trying to kill the cat because the cat has come in and taken over his village and has subjugated his village to working in the factories for the cats.
Okay, I'm going to stop you there. That's slander, for one. The Marquise the cat, they are not these, like, you know, totalitarian overlords as you're painting them to be. And they also are not part of this little trying to take over the forest, because I'll have you know, as I'm brushing off my shoulder, they already own the forest. And if you guys would just relax, they'll make life better for everybody.
I believe you're forgetting the previous rulers that you overthrew.
But you know what?
In order to take your crown,
Yeah. Now, if I can say my little thoughts on Root, I would say that it is probably the most innovative experience when it comes to a war game in a package that is actually not the typical war game package. It's more close to a board game, but nevertheless, it delivers a feel of a battle that goes on. And what is interesting is, as probably already Andrew mentioned, you don't need to learn the rules for everyone. You only need to learn your own rules, but then you see how everybody else can somehow influence your own rules without you knowing at first what they are doing. Yeah. So that kind of gives some mechanics that are pretty interesting. Because usually, you know, guys, in a war game, you more or less do the same thing, and then you say, okay, how do we win? We may have different scenarios, different maybe objectives how to win, but at the same time, you kind of have an idea. But in Roots, especially starting at the beginning, like I did, it is completely different. You kind of figure the game out while you're playing, what other people can do and how they interact with you. But it feels like a game where it's simple, but at the same time, it always slips up your fingers when you try to understand and get it. I feel like there's something still that I don't know, and I don't know. It kind of surprises me. It surprises. It is surprising.
I will say this. Anyone who has been playing Root long enough will tell you it will take your first 20 plus games before you actually get all the rules right.
Got it.
Before everyone at your game table will get the rules right, and that's not. It's kind of a hard truth, but because each group is so asymmetric in terms of how they work. So again, we talk about the Erie Dynasty, the Marquise de la Cat, and the Woodland Alliance. All of those groups in their own unique way muster their forces and kind of duke it out with each other. And there's such a varying difference in how the three of them do that. But then you throw the vagabond into the mix. And regardless of just how ridiculous his interactions are on the board, you go from, instead of mustering forces to go fight everybody, you have this wanderer who just sort of strolls into town, and he either, one, gives you a bunch of stuff that can maybe help you out, but basically he ends up forcing you to help him over essentially he can just wander into town and just destroy the whole town.
Now that you're describing it this way, to me, Roots looks like one of those buffet where you go and you can literally choose any kind of mechanics or ideas behind like common factions, and you can just pick and choose. As you said, playing with the Vagabond is a completely different game experience.
Yeah. Yep. And to boot, like, the last thing I'll say is we've only talked about the core box. There's by the end of this year there will be four other expansions, but then they also have two others that introduce sort of an automatic play for some of these factions. But anyway, check out Root from Leader Games. They've got a ton of other very interesting games too. that I'm going to be buying in the near future. This is a company that I'm all on board for.
Yeah, and hopefully it'll be on the channel. And I think,
Yes.
like Sal said, it's a buffet. And unlike those really crappy Asian buffets that we all have in our hometown, you keep wanting to go back to it, right?
Yes, that's true.
Yes.
And
Okay, I just want to say, Root, it is somehow, I don't want to say a spiritual descendant, but I would say it belongs to that world, or I would say universe, where I personally will put another game that probably most of you guys have heard. It's called Mice and Mystics. It is a game where it's a sort of Dungeons and Dragons, but where your heroes are actually mice, and your enemies are like roaches and spiders and so forth. So guys, I never show it to you. I own it. It's a dear game that my wife gave it to me on some years ago, and I kept it there because we both love the flavor, the world, the little mice dressed like knights. So Roots, in a way, to me, it brings me back to those kind of atmospheres in that world.
Absolutely. I've seen the artwork for that. So we're getting a little short on time here. Well, I should say we've spent a lot of time here. There is one last little segment to the show. I thought it'd be a fun idea if we all did the little like powwow high school girl thing, right? Where we talk about our favorite moments that we've had so far with the channel, because we're approaching 700 subs, and
Yes.
it's crazy. We're actually getting really close to even maybe being able to get something back for some of the work with some well, we get plenty back from you guys, but some monetary investment back from the work too in different ways, and it is just crazy. So I thought a good way to round out the first show would be to talk about each of our favorite moments that we've had, whether it be a specific video, a specific project, or maybe we were just playing a game together, but anything to do with this channel since it was just started at the beginning of this year. What was your favorite moment? So I'm gonna hand it over to Mikey first, because me and him kind of started the channel and everything kind of just fell into place after that. So what do you think, Mikey? What just made you feel fuzzy inside?
I wouldn't say fuzzy, but I'm an Android when it comes to that kind of stuff. But funny, I'm always looking for the stuff because what stands out to me is what made me laugh. And well, for one, every single one of the videos that we have put up, there has been a part, whether I'm in it or not, that I just guffaw. I just crack up. But the first time that I ever did it is, I think, is my favorite memory. I think it was the very first video we did, and looking back on it now, it's a very, very rough video, but it was the very first one we ever dropped. And there's a part in there where I think we were playing Black Seas, and I shot one of your ships, and you caught on fire. And we were going over the rule book to determine what happens. You had a break test or something, and as I explained to you in detail how dire your situation was, you took on this weird look on your face. And then in post-edit, you put the Katy Perry. You went black and white, and you put the Katy Perry meme of, sometimes when they ask you if you're all right, you have to say you're all right when really you're not. And I think that was the very first time that I actually laughed until I had tears in my eyes watching some of the stuff that we put on this channel. So that's got to be my favorite, the favorite thing that stands out to me.
I love it. I had fun making that one too. That was early stuff. Go check out our Black Seas if you haven't, if you're newer to the channel.
Like I said, like episode 1, I think.
Yeah, that
was all time.
Yeah, that was a long time ago, a year ago. So what about you, Andrew? What do you think?
Oh man, let's see. This was kind of a difficult one. I would say my favorite. It was the. I have to say, honestly, it was my first Battle Companies match against Salva.
Wow,
that was your favorite?
Yeah. So while that was extremely disheartening in terms of game, it was kind of fun to just sort of watch these Urukai sort of air quotes bumble around in the dark to try to save themselves, and just how horribly they did. But then when we had our rematch, they really Salva went away with quite the black eye for his troubles. So they got their comeuppance in the end, but in all honesty, I think it was honestly just it was that my first appearance on the channel? No, I've been a couple of the Battle Companies games, but more as just sort of on the side. Like this was where it was like me playing against Salva instead of me helping John play against Mikey.
Yeah, that was like the first time you really came into your own the channel, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, because he had been on some bolt action videos on a 2v2, which is where he earned the nickname Lieutenant Hall or Lieutenant Hall. But yeah, this I think it was his first real one-on-one.
Huh, that's interesting. I would have never, if I had to like put money on what you would have said, I would not have said that game just because how poorly it went for the Rokai.
It did. It went very poorly. But I mean, that's the thing. Like, you know, as much as I can be competitive when I want to be, it's a game. It's toys. It's games. Like it's okay.
It's friendship.
Action figures.
Got quiet. Okay. Salvatore.
Yes.
What is your favorite thing you've participated in or seen on the channel?
Okay. Well, I had more time to think about it because I was listening to you guys. I would say, again, not to double dip, but Battle Companies has been probably the most lively and memorable in our recent time to me. It's been the battle against Tyler, the second battle I had. It was basically just fun because we started playing and it felt like a normal game. Like, okay, we're going to do this, I'm going to do that. And I was taking it a little bit more seriously just because I came out of a 3 defeated once after the other. So I was expecting the worst. So I wanted to strategize more. I came with that kind of mindset. And then throughout the game, Andrew stopped by, and then Mikey was sitting there, was commenting the game. And basically, by rewatching and editing the video, it turns out I just like the atmosphere that basically developed throughout the game. We were not focusing on the game anymore itself, on the tactics part. We were just focusing on the laughing, making jokes, to the point where I had a hard time editing because a lot of times we were just going off topic. And I think the core, no, but I think the core for us has always been to being off topic. And what I mean off topic, I mean to focus on more our relationship or friendship. And that game, I believe, brings it up where we started, at least I started with putting the game first. And throughout the game, it turned out to be, no, it's about us having fun. And the game is more like a mean to allow us to be together. And I believe that Battle Companies has been very, very strongly. And one comment actually hit me because a guy said, yeah, I like the, editing and graphics and everything, but the banter. And I think that this summarized it pretty well because that's what it is. It's actually our interactions, our relationships. In that game, it really brings it up very strongly.
Well said. Well said.
Yes.
Personally, I would have to say, I'm gonna double dip host privileges here. The first one for me, and this is just a personal thing, the Deadliest Models parody video that night. Not even just the video itself, but that night when we filmed it, 2 of the people in the room, that being Salvo and Tyler, helping out with the filming, like didn't even know the rules or anything that was going on. They were just helping us make this video, right? But it felt so, and it kind of goes back to what you were saying, that the whole atmosphere that night, it did not, sometimes, let's be honest, you film a video and you get halfway through it and things aren't going the way that you thought it would pan out, and it's just like, man, dude, like I want to be done with this, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But not that night. That night, the whole time, it was just like, I forgot it was even, we had to take anything seriously at all, that we had to do anything for the camera. It just felt so organic. All of the laughter in that video is not forced. All the cheeky little smiles where we had just said something stupid right before we started rolling.
I don't think we never forced anything when it comes to laughing or...
Nope. We have never... every once in a while there's a little line, that we want to say, like we get ready for the line at some point. But but in general, and that's why I was going to say a double dip here. Something that it is such a small detail, but I think it explains the whole channel. Mm-hmm. Again, it goes back to Battle Companies. I believe it was the first video we did. It was our intro, and we were getting set up for the intro, and everybody was standing there, and think it
Oh
was
man,
me.
yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
and I was
Yes.
like, so what are we doing today? And then we had Tyler, because he's a tall guy. He was
Yes.
behind our curtain, right? And he
Yes.
hands the book down, and it was like the stupidest, cheesiest, like 2007 YouTube crap ever. But it was a spur of the moment idea. It was not planned. Like we had not set that up. Like we were just standing there, and Tyler's like, "What if I stand?" Because I think he was trying to get out of our way for the camera. And we were
Yes.
like, dude, no, be in the video. And then he's like, what do I do? I'm not ready to be in the video. We're like, just stand behind the curtain and drop the book for dramatic effect. And
Yeah.
we were all laughing, and then we failed
Yeah.
doing it like 3 times, and it wasn't in the frame, but it was never frustrating. It was just hilarious.
That's
It
the
was
one where
hilarious.
Salva jumped up from underneath the frame too, right?
Yes, that's what I did.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's what I was thinking.
It was all improvised. None of that was like on
Yep.
paper. It was all improvised, and it was glorious, and I think it turned out really well. But I just, like you guys were all saying, it's just the the laughter of it all. I genuinely hope all of our subs and those who don't sub get that same amount of, I hope they can feel that. I think our videos do a good job encompassing that energy, but it's definitely there. It is not forced at all.
Yes, I would like to eventually, again, double on the concept that we want to get the rules straight as much as we can, of course, but at the same time, we do not want to get bogged down by the technicality of the things. We want to just enjoy ourselves at the same time, share what we have with you all.
I agree wholeheartedly. Well, guys, we could keep talking forever, and we will in the next episode, but we are exactly a minute away from an hour now. So I say, to spare these poor listeners' ears, we wrap up. Is there anything we missed? Is there any questions, comments, concerns, hallelujahs, I do's, anything?
I think we've about touched on everything.
Okay. Well, as always, we will have plenty to talk about in the next episode, and hopefully you guys enjoyed this one. It's something we're going to continue to do because we like to talk, is really the real reason of it all. You know, it has nothing else. We just want to talk on the internet. So, you guys have been amazing. Only reason we're even doing this podcast is because you guys have been so supportive of everything we've done up to this point. Almost 700 subs. It's going to be 1,400 in 3 months when we blink our eyes. It's crazy. You guys are awesome. Please comment and interact with our videos. We don't even want it for the algorithm stuff. We just really actually like reading your comments that much. It makes our day when we see your names pop up on our phones, and then we all read it, even if we don't all comment. It's amazing. So with all of that said, whatever you do in life, just don't roll a
Don't
one.
roll a one.
The roll of one, absolutely.